Good evening, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout of Masons from around the world who get together to discuss Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The following disclaimer applies for this episode. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely those of the participants and do not reflect any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Please keep your comments open to the public and on the level for tonight's episode. Tonight, as in all of our episodes prior to this, we want to hear from you. You can interact with us on Facebook and or Twitter. Send in your questions and comments to the show. We will have social media time during the latter half of the show. We are looking forward to hearing from you and hearing your comments and questions for our special guest tonight. As far as introductions are concerned, my name is Jason Richards, and I am the Junior Warden of Acacia Lodge number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia. And I will hand it off to Robert Johnson.
Hey everybody, Robert Johnson here, Worshipful Master out at Waukegan Lodge number 78 in good old Waukegan, Illinois, and the host of the Masonic podcast, Whence Came You?
Great. And Juan Sepulveda.
Hello everybody, Juan Sepulveda from Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in Kissimmee, Florida, the Sunshine State, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast.
And the Gentleman's Brotherhood.
And the Gentleman's Brotherhood.
And last but not least, we have to send our best wishes to John Ruark because he has, real work stuff and providing for family stuff that he has to do tonight. So obviously his priorities are, Robert Johnson just had a baby, and he's on the show. So John really has no excuse, but I am running the show tonight, and I just want to hand it off to our very special guest, Rob Hurd. Please introduce yourself and tell us what lodge you're from, Rob.
Okay, I'm from a lot of lodges. Robert Hurd, past master of Tejon Lodge 104 in Colorado Springs, founding charter member of Enlightenment Lodge number 198, an observant lodge here in Colorado also, an associate member of Lodge of Living Stones number 4957 in Leeds, England, an honorary member of about a dozen lodges pretty much around the world.
Wow. That is quite a Masonic resume there, Brother Rob. Thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Masonic news is light this evening. We need to put out an APB to Chris Hodap to update his blog again because we miss our weekly source of Masonic news, and his blog is the best around for that. But we will go right into the Masonic Monday question on Tuesday, and Brother Nick Johnson is also playing hooky tonight, so I will go ahead and read the answer for last week's question. So after Prince Hall, along with 14 other free black men, were rejected by the Colonial Lodge located in Boston, Prince Hall and his compatriots applied to and were initiated into this lodge. What was the number of the lodge? What constitution was it under? And to what military unit was it attached? The answer is Lodge number 441 of the Irish Constitution, and the lodge was attached to the 38th British Foot Infantry Regiment. We'll read off the names of the fantastic MMQOTers who are TMR watchers who got it right. We have William Nair, Chris Boyce, Greg Guffey, Jason Richards, whoever the hell that is, Justin Miller, Mark Wallen, Christopher Croteau, Art Ingersoll, Mark Robbins, Jonathan Primo, Steve Whitaker, Glenn Keeker, Michael Laidlaw, James Webb, Michael Overturf, Paul Lavin, Joey Boyer, Steve Higdon, Sean Griffith, Lou Bedford, Christopher Fetko, Christian Dubbs, Josh Bartz, and Darius Butler. So congratulations to you all. You get the customary TMR golf clap for getting that correct. And we're going to go on to this week's Masonic Monday question on Tuesday, which is, in strange ways, our Masonic legends collide into each other in unintentional ways. Within Masonic study, we pay homage to the 5 classical orders of architecture. The final order of architecture, the composite order, is generally agreed to have been employed first in this famed Roman structure, found in the Forum of Rome, honoring the destruction of this famous temple. What are the names of these two structures, respectively? And your bonus question is, what image, carved in deep relief, serves as the main focal point of the structure that first employed the composite order of architecture? When you get an answer, send it to the Facebook page. I mean, don't put it on Facebook. We still have people who do that. Send it to masonicmonday@gmail.com. Don't forget your lodge name and number. Hashtag Nick and John are slackers.
Guess who's here? Hey! Just in time for the public.
Right behind me, isn't he?
Man, it's like those video games where you have jump scares and you just
Respawn kill.
Brother John Ruark, back from being a slacker. Congratulations on making it to the show. Go ahead and introduce your name and lodge number, please.
I'm still John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957.
In Fairfax, Virginia.
Right. Thank you.
Run of the mill.
So we wanted to give a lot of time for discussion tonight. So we're going to jump right into that since Masonic News was light, and talk about the initiatic experience of Freemasonry. And so with Freemasonry, at least with Blue Lodge, you know that there are 3 initiation rites or degrees. Rites of passage that each candidate must go through, knowledge that is conferred upon a candidate, and this is something that we call an initiatic experience. And I'll turn it over to Rob to just give a little bit of a background on the idea of an initiatic experience and why it's so important in Masonry today.
Okay, well, if we start out just thinking about the word itself, initiation, and what it means, where it comes from, really what it symbolizes is a simultaneous death of an old state of being and a birth of a new state of being. So to be initiated really is the end of an old way and the beginning of a new way. And that permeates throughout our Masonic rituals. A man comes to Masonry seeking to make himself better because he has a vision of wanting to be better, and he, sort of analyzes his current state, goes through these rituals, hopefully really absorbs these lessons, and a transformation occurs, and he no longer is that old man. He is a new man. This helps us with the transformation that basically every man, or even every human being, you can say, it's human nature, and it's why it permeates through all cultures and all civilizations, is this ritual. So that's really, the initiatic experience. And our context in Freemasonry really is about that cheesy little line of making a good man better. So the initiatic experience puts him on that path, sets him on the path of what are maybe in other cultures or other circles considered the lesser mysteries.
That's interesting in my research for the show. There, in general, a lot of the initiatic experiences overall, not just within Freemasonry, really fall into 2 camps. There's puberty or manhood rites, and then there's almost rites of passage into an order, whether it be a union or a speculative order like ours. And so obviously we're not really talking about some of these tribal, you must kill that lion to become a man kind of things, right? Or are we? I don't know. And then, so I think it's really kind of neat that even that difference between a puberty rite and a trade rite, that they both have a transformation that occurs from from really going from one state to another, and usually going from an immature state to a mature state.
Absolutely. Illustrious brother Bob Davis has written, books on this entire thing about, the male masculinity and how, in America especially, we really have dropped the ball in this area. So American men, for instance, really find something lacking in their lives because they haven't had this, basically this ritual in their life to even go beyond puberty. I mean, we have the Sweet 16, the 18 you can vote, 21 you can drink kind of stuff, but not like other cultures, especially other ancient civilizations that had huge rituals that revolved around these things. Again, not just puberty rites, but just about the priesthoods, about mysteries, and even science and knowledge. Several of those in Egypt were initiation rites just to become what we would consider a scientist.
It's a book that almost every Mason has read, is into the esoteric type stuff. Is Manly P. Hall's work called Secret or The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. The whole book, if you get the print copy, it goes through basically an Egyptian priest's initiation into his order. It's a fantastic book. And it goes, like you said, in all aspects of life. My grandfather, I have pictures in a photo album of when he became Master Chief. I'm not going to say he dressed up like Miss Piggy, but he had to dress up like Miss Piggy, right?
I was going to say Master Chief, isn't that Halo?
So he has, there's an initiation. So it goes both ways. But it's in everything, and it's important.
Well, you think even in the military, like hazing aside, there are definite like rites of initiation from being a private rank and moving up the ranks. And that's something that's very prevalent in military culture as well. So those who aren't in the military, again, aren't privy, ultimately to that same type of becoming a man, as it were.
Well, ultimately, if you look at, like, in the military, for instance, there is the aspect of boot camp itself is an initiating and passing rite. Like, you pass that, you did it. When you go through police academy, when you pass police academy, you did it. And even like in high school gym class, everybody had to run the mile unless you were awesome and got a note. But so there's
a story there.
Yeah, there is. But there's all these little teeny things that we do to kind of prove up, level up, but there's nothing major in the, I want to say, quote unquote normal guy's life to facilitate exactly what Brother Hurd was mentioning.
You guys brought up the military. Combat is a huge initiation. What does that form? That forms a brotherhood. In Freemasonry, we have, if you consider our third degree, a death ritual. That forms a brotherhood. So all of these other civilizations that have a death ritual. It was also a bonding ritual. It wasn't solely about the initiate. And again, that's one of the things that makes a true initiatic experience so special. It is just as much a powerful event for the initiator as it is the initiate himself.
Well, nothing quite sets bonds together like focusing on the fact that you need to make the most of the time that you have now, because you're going to pass away one day. And I think that reminder of that memento mori aspect of all life is something that really cements the bond between humans.
You see,
Absolutely.
There's a thing that comes to mind when it comes to initiations and these rites of passages. You will have some that are transient. Like, for example, I'm sure you all graduated high school, and when you did, you were going through a certain rite of passage as you graduated with that particular group. And here now, 15, 20 years later after that, these people have dissipated. They've gone to different areas. So that's a transient group that you latch on. But there are other more permanent ones. If you were to think of a rite of passage that happens in a community, and I'll give, for example, in the thinking of some indigenous, like I'm thinking of the Yanomami tribes, and like these tribes, you have these rites of passages, and these people, they remain part of the same nucleus for the rest of their lives. So those are more permanent rites of passages, and I think that Freemasonry is one that falls under that latter category, where if things are done right, of course, if the participant and the people supporting have the same vision, this is something that should unite you in that brotherhood for the rest of your life. And I think that's, we're privileged that we're part of something like that in today's society.
Absolutely.
So I want to touch a little bit on the idea of shared experiences, because that's something that is just really neat, and it's something that's worth mentioning, because you form a bond with the brotherhood and with the men in that brotherhood because you've all gone through the same thing. So I've got a bond with a brother in California who I've never met, who I've never sat in lodge with. But because we both have that common initiatic experience, we're bonded together. And I think
Absolutely.
that's really, really neat. And that gets to what Juan was talking about with the transient versus static, where Masonry really is unique in the sense that it's really everywhere in the world. And it's just amazing that that bond transcends time and borders.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We're initiated into an order that where we're taught to be accepting rather than to be polar, which is really counter to what goes on sort of in our daily lives, where we're kind of bombarded by the media making us, polar. Where I currently have friends all over the world. Many of them are Muslim. Well, guess what kind of challenges that creates when I look at my Facebook on a daily basis. But we shared that initiatic rite, and I consider them brothers. So there is an inclusion aspect to this initiation and these initiatic rituals that, again, the outside world isn't necessarily accustomed to.
Mm-hmm. So, Robert, I have a question for you. Since you literally wrote the book on the Initiatic Experience, what would you say makes a good initiatic experience, or what are the things that are necessary for an effective initiatic experience?
Well, there's several key factors, of course. So first off, the candidate himself needs to be open to change. Regardless of whatever lesson or whatever you're trying to impose upon the candidate, the only person that can change him is him. We don't change people. They change themselves. So hopefully we're inspirational enough to spark that within them. So number one, the candidate has to be open to transformation or open to change. He has to have looked inside himself and found something that he wants to make better. The alchemical process of solve et coagula. We're just going to break things down. But the initiator also, if we put this in context of our average lodge, if we're talking about a lodge scenario, the initiators are the lecturers or the brothers in the lodge that are performing the ritual. You need brothers to do a good job. They need to know their parts. They need to be well practiced, because things like stuttering, locking up when you're delivering the degree, those are things that inhibit this initiatic experience. There's literally an energy that should flow from the lecturer. It should come as a flow of energy, sort of. And I think I mentioned this on Juan's podcast before. if you've ever heard somebody play a piano and they miss a note, how it's practically, almost literally painful to you. And it's no different from a candidate who is sitting there listening to this flow of words and philosophy and inspiration, but yet then maybe the man is forgetting parts and needs to be prompted, and there's guys laughing on the sideline and joking around, and there's all kinds of other distractions. You can see how that the environment can really hurt that energy that's trying to be delivered. Those are the two key aspects, I think, is that openness for change and a proper delivery, whatever that aspect is, if it's in lodge or a lecture or a ritual or whatever.
That's great. One thing I was to build on that, it's my opinion, and maybe you can support this or not, or completely discredit me.
Yes, do the latter. It makes for a more fun show.
Is the ability to apply to the five senses, and without giving too much away with what we do, I think it's definitely you want to envelop the candidate with an experience that's not just focusing on a singular or small group of senses. You really need to envelop the candidate in the entire process, so it leaves a mark, it leaves a memory of that initiatic experience as well.
Absolutely, 100% agree. There are different levels. Some lodges don't do that at all. Some lodges don't play music. Some lodges don't have incense. Some lodges barely even blindfold a guy, whereas my lodge uses a whole entire hood. So absolutely, there are certainly levels of details that we could go in here. You could start with maybe, I'm not necessarily discrediting them, but a one-day class that doesn't put a lot of effort necessarily into the environment and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, on the other end of the polarity, you might have an observant lodge that puts all their effort into that environment. So there's certainly different levels. I certainly value putting as much energy into that environment as possible. You are trying to create literally a sacred space. We're taught that it is the holy of holies. And so we are to create a sacred space for this initiatic transmission that is going to change a man's life. Because if he comes back the same man that he came to you, you didn't do your job.
You failed.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a really interesting tie-in to what you were talking about with the ritual, and making sure that first and foremost your guys who are doing these parts know the ritual, because again, when somebody misses a word, it just breaks that experience, and it's just kind of a jerk to the candidate. And that's something that I really love about observant lodges, is the fact that they're so focused on the experience and getting the ritual right, and making sure that that candidate has the richest experience that he can have. It's just something that's really, really neat, that I think just adds to that initiatic experience that pays dividends in the long run.
And not to pump my lodge, there's a lot of lodges that do this, but to single that person out. When my lodge does an initiation, we only do one that day. It's all about that guy. It's practically his birthday. We go pick him up in a limousine, and we're all wearing tuxedos. We get joked about all along the way of who's getting married or something like that, because we have this guy in a limousine. But it is solely about that man and that man's experience that day. We have a super fine meal that's catered. The day is all about him. All of our discussions are all about him. And it's entirely focused on him.
You see, I love the attention to detail, and to the brothers that are listening, you don't have to go all out and have the limousine and have all the details. You can start small, but have that harmony throughout the commitment of everybody. There's nothing more beautiful than to go to a lodge, regardless of where it is, and see that the brothers that are participating in the ceremony, in the degree, they're committed to giving that candidate a life-changing experience. None of that, chit-chatting on the sidelines or joking about goats or making unnecessary noises. And it's human nature. Someone might stumble on his word at one moment because of the nervousness. That's fine. The problem is when there's not enough value placed in the preparation for it. If the error comes out of nerves, spur of the moment thing, I can understand that. But when there is a complete lack of value given to the preparation process, that ceremony, that degree doesn't start when the door is closed. It starts 2-3 weeks before, when you are preparing yourself to give that man that life-changing experience.
So
Absolutely.
what do you guys think, right? So I was at a third degree. I won't say where. It was a triple third degree. Now, in a triple third degree, it came time for lectures. Gentlemen, I gave him huge props, right? Because he's a guy who is first time learning any ritual. He's going up. He's going to deliver. He got 10 words out, and then he had to be prompted every 2 words. At this point, I'm thinking the guy who the 3 candidates are listening to this, like it completely negates the purpose, right? I mean, you're reading it and then he's repeating it. Why don't you just read it at this point? And so that the guy I was with was a good brother of mine, Dan Gentry, and we looked at each other, and Dan was so upset because this was one of his candidates out there, one of his mentees, and he just was so upset about it. And I said, we can't undo this. All you can do from now on is
Sure.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are wrong with that, and it's like, where do you start? Not only did you give the candidate a poor performance, and it didn't come across as solemn, and maybe didn't spark the initiatic inspiration in him, but you might have. But you've also just sort of taught him a lesson that's because. Well, I won't say this about your experience, RJ, but I've experienced it a lot where you show up to a degree like that happens, but still in the end you get guys that stand up and kind of clap and thank everybody for their wonderful performance. And it teaches mediocrity, it celebrates mediocrity, and you've just taught that new candidate that's okay, that not only is it okay, it's actually celebrated. You can still get a clap for it.
Yeah, we don't.
Guy in purple stands up and thanks you.
Illinois clapping is pretty prohibited after a degree like that for somebody who's performing, right? Because we don't want to celebrate the lecturer. Again, it should be about the candidate. But I totally see where you're going, and yeah, it does. It teaches absolute mediocrity.
It's so heavy to think that if you are the one that are dropping the ball, not only are you giving a bad impression of what the process is, you are taking away from this man his one and only opportunity to witness that degree.
Yeah.
You are robbing him of that experience. You're violating your obligation in the process of initiating this man.
Remember your oats.
Yeah, remember your honey oats.
Remember your honey bunches of oats.
So, Rob did touch on something interesting when you were talking about how you dress up in tuxedos and pick up the initiate in a limousine. And it touches on the fact that the initiatic experience is not just defined to the little part where you're in the lodge giving the ritual. There are a lot of other things to consider, like mentorship throughout the process, and some things that you can actually do before the initiation, and in some cases I'm talking about chambers of reflection. So wanted to bring that into the discussion and say, have you guys used the COR? What do you think about them? It's a hotly debated topic in this jurisdiction.
You need that thing that you see on movies where it goes dun dun dun. Chamber of reflection. Dun dun dun. Well, yeah, absolutely. We use them here in Colorado. We were, about 10 years ago, we were one of the first states to start trying to bring it back. And actually, Tim Hogan, Cliff Porter, myself, we were all on Dateline NBC when they did a segment on the Chamber of Reflection in regards to Dan Brown's book that focused on, his main character focused on a chamber of reflection, and we had one. So they came and they filmed us, and we wouldn't let them film the chamber because that was sacred to us and our members. But we talked a lot about it and stuff. So we definitely use it. It's another aspect that I believe it takes a certain lodge culture to operate one properly. And again, I don't mean to say that we're disparaging anybody. I even wanted to say a few minutes ago that even a lodge full of guys that are dressed in nothing but coveralls can deliver a very solemn and inspirational degree. The whole deal about tuxedos and whatnot, that's just our lodge culture. I mean, that doesn't even define traditional observance, really, because there's traditional observant lodges that don't wear tuxedos. To us, that was just sort of our way of making a uniform appearance to remove another distraction, so that we didn't show up with two guys in a black suit, one guy in a brown suit, one guy in jeans. It was just something we said, if we're going to make a dress code for our lodge, let's set the bar high and let's go ahead and do tuxedos. So we did that. That's just our culture. Again, not to disparage anybody else in any way.
No, it's kind of a lodge uniform, and it's one less thing to distract the candidate from the real experience.
Yep, absolutely.
Acacia Lodge, my lodge, is a country lodge, and we've got guys who wear jeans and polos and khakis and polos to lodge. And I tell you what, we can give a darn good degree, and we are fantastic mentors for our candidates. It's just what you want to spend your focus on.
So again, that goes back to culture, and there are some lodges that their culture is more, I hate to say esoteric, but maybe a little bit below the surface, and not your average superficial lodge that is a simple social kind of lodge. And that lodge culture might use a chamber of reflection, whereas again, other lodges that are maybe more of a social lodge or I don't know, a specialty lodge, which there are a lot of around the country. They certainly wouldn't use one because that's just not in their culture. It's not in their interest, and it probably would do the candidate a disservice if they used one or tried to use one.
Yeah, something along the lines of hyping up expectations, and then when the rest of the degree doesn't actually deliver upon those expectations, that could do a bit of damage.
So
Absolutely.
I have a question about criticism, right? So my lodge personally, or our lodge was stemmed from two lodges that formed, right? But in the beginning, we had Waukegan, it was Union 78. Union 78, the lawyers, the doctors, they joined that lodge. Later on down the road, we combined with another lodge, so Waukegan 78 came out, and it was still lawyers, judges, and doctors. Our sister lodge that came out, lodges in the area, they would be like naval. Other lodges would be, because we're on the Great Lakes, right? So we've got the naval base. And so Waukegan is called, we're deemed a tuxedo lodge. That's just because we do degree work in tuxedos. Now, because of that, we've been called, quote-unquote, elitists. And a lot of the topics that we talk about tonight on this show, specifically, when we talk about limousines and we talk about tuxes, for instance, Alexandria, Washington, their black pants, white coats, tails, that kind of thing. So what's your take if somebody comes up to you guys and says, you're just an elitist?
To me, that's sort of Jungian psychology. They're projecting their own fear. So they're prejudiced, mostly out of fear because they think that we criticize them, that by having our lodge culture contain limousines and tuxedos and things, that we feel like we are better than them, or that is the right way and that theirs is the wrong way, which is absolutely false. So we tend to get this exterior prejudice simply because they are afraid of being thought of as wrong, or maybe as rednecks, or whatever it is.
Right.
So we get the brunt of that. They are more active in being prejudiced against us and calling us names, calling us elitist, going behind our back and telling people that we do nefarious things. These chambers of reflections, or we have naked women on the altars, or something like that.
We do.
And
There's an initiatic experience
it's
for you.
absolutely.
Masonry would
it
no
all
longer have to
stems-
deal with declining membership.
Robert,
There
you
go.
lost us. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, it just, in short, again, to me, that all comes out of their own fears and their own prejudices, their own insecurities. Because from us, it's absolutely not true. And I don't want any other lodge culture, demeaned by us at all. I believe every lodge should have its culture.
So that brings up just a quick story is that every year at my Grand Lodge sessions, I'm in Illinois, so there's Southern and Northern Illinois, and I'm in an elevator in a Hilton, and I'm wearing a three-piece suit in there with a guy who was wearing overalls and a Masonic T-shirt.
Sure.
And this is the thing, the kind of people you're talking about who are insecure, I don't see that from most people. I just don't see it from. There's just a select few, and at Grand Lodge, it's the Northern and the Southern. We're across from each other because they kind of seat us in a U shape, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just tuxes looking at the overalls and back and forth, and it's funny,
Robert,
but
it's so funny because Jason and I are thinking the same thing here in Virginia. There's Northern Virginia, and then there's
right,
The
yeah.
rest of Virginia.
But nowhere else do these two classes just commingle and get together over drinks and talk about the same stuff. It's crazy.
It can go really well. It can go really bad. We've had guys that 100% love what we do. They would never do it themselves, but they 100% support us. And I've been in a lodge where a guy has almost threatened to come across the floor and beat me down because I was wearing a suit. Not even a tux, but in Colorado, we're very casual. There's a lot of cowboy boots and jeans and whatnot. And in the summertime, you get shorts and flip-flops, and hopefully there's not some Fruit Loop that's painted his toenails. But I have literally had a guy threaten to come across the lodge because he views me as being prejudiced against him just because I was wearing a suit, and I had not been that way at all.
So that sounds like projecting your own insecurities on someone else.
That's a great response. It really is. I had another question for you. You mentioned that you were kind of behind this movement on bringing some of these tools and techniques to enhance the experience about 10 years ago. And one thing that I found kind of interesting was looking at the Masonic Services Association and how they do their membership numbers every year. If you look at Colorado, you're one of the few states that actually goes up, and this is up by 5% just in the past year with these numbers. So when all these other states are in the negative, you might have one or two that go up by single digits, right? But as small as the numbers are compared to other states, Colorado is doing something right. Would you attribute part of what you guys are doing over there, and let's just wrap it into the umbrella of the title of the show, the Initiatic Experience, focusing on that. Do you think that is a contributing factor to the good increase in membership?
100%. I would start, though, by saying it's more of a reflection of our leadership. Colorado's Grand Lodge leadership over the past 5 to 10 years has been outstanding. Not only from an active leadership standpoint, but also from sort of a standpoint of staying out of the way. When somebody has a really good idea, they don't try and committee it to death. They'll really let you have a certain amount of freedom to try things and to see if you succeed, and they're willing to support you. They were very, very supportive of us when we were starting, a traditional observance lodge, which is, there was less than half a dozen of them in the U.S. A lot of states, a lot of leadership in those states, for lack of a better term, freak out over that kind of stuff, and our Grand Lodge did not. So our Grand Lodge really looked at tools that were being effective, and they allowed those to continue, and they also looked at things that were no longer effective, such as our usage of one-day classes, and they stopped doing those things. So I really attribute that to our good leadership of Colorado, not simply because of bringing observant masonry to Colorado. There certainly has also been a huge focus on Colorado as a whole, and I don't necessarily, I can't explain that 100%. You have the Tim Hogans of Colorado and the Cliff Porters of Colorado, maybe myself. But you have these sort of international figures that have drawn a lot of focus on Colorado. So I think that in itself also has spurred more inspiration and more action towards the Initiatic Experience, whereas maybe some states don't have that momentum that we created. So I think those are the two biggest aspects that I would say maybe support those numbers.
So really quickly, John, I think one thing you should mention is that you said they're in the plus by 426 members, but they are literally the highest on the list.
Oh, exactly. And then you have other states. I know, Paul Chamberlain will be proud to talk about Pennsylvania being, a large portion. Maybe I think he said about a fifth of all Masons in the United States. And so they have the numbers, but they're falling by large percentages.
Right. So, in this list, if you guys can see it, you guys can pull it up. Just ms.com.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Colorado's leading it with 426 in the plus, and the greatest loss, and of course, this probably has to do with land area and population too, but would be Texas at 11,848 loss. It's insane.
And what year are these numbers, John?
2012 to 2013.
Okay. Whereas Utah has a gain of 24 members, and we will attribute that success solely to Jason Mitchell. He was the only one who made that happen.
Brother Hurd, I have a question for the brothers that are part of the leadership within their respective lodges. If you could give them some actionable do's and don'ts in order for them to improve upon the Initiatic Experience in their respective lodges, what would you say that they should do, and what should they avoid?
Number one, one of the things that I've been doing for the last couple of years is traveling around teaching lodge leadership to basically anybody that would have me. But I just got back from Texas, where I ran a program for some lodges there, and I've done it for Grand Lodges even. Basically, it comes down to leadership training. You need buy-in from your leaders. So, we have this horrible phrase, "in my year." So a worshipful master comes into the chair, and he has maybe a plan, but he basically kind of flies by the seat of his pants, and the next year, the next guy comes up, and it's now his plan, and the old plan's out. We need sustainability built into our lodges, and this covers everything, lodge logistics, finances, leadership, as well as the Initiatic Experience. Whatever a lodge is going to do, whatever their vision is, the leadership needs to have buy-in so that they can have a sustainable plan over more time than just 1 year. This whole 1 year kind of thing really kills us, on top of progressive lines and things like that. But the do's are, they should come up with a vision, they should come up with a lodge culture, and they should all have a basic agreement around this. Mentoring is a huge thing, a huge aspect of our lodge experience that has been very valuable, as well as education, and to really focus on what makes the experience valuable to the initiate. Treat him like a customer. You know, you have a product. You're going to deliver a product. What makes it valuable to him? Should we do things that make it less valuable? Do we have to make it cheap? Do we have to cheapen it till it no longer has value? Will that customer stay around? You know, if you look at that, those kind of things, you can, you know, even from a corporate kind of standpoint, you can easily see what you need to do and what you need to stop doing, because your customer will let you know through active feedback. You know, our members vote with their feet.
Loves that analogy because it's
All right.
so true.
Well, yeah, it's like Simon Sinek with Start With Why. You know, when you look at repeat business and why customers come back, they're buying the idea behind what you're doing. They're not buying the actual product, and that's what the Initiatic Experience is all about.
Yeah. They have expectations, and our members, Cliff Porter, I think, coined this phrase of they vote with their feet. If you do something right, they come back. If you do something wrong, they'll leave. They literally vote with their feet. So you have to be careful in that aspect. You have to really pay attention to value. It's not so much about cost. It's about value.
Yeah. So, John, what do we have going on in social media tonight?
Well, let's see. Brother Herd does have a fan base as well. There are a lot of people excited to have you on the show, so thanks again for joining us. And Edgar Alejandro from Atlanta does echo your one candidate at a time proposal that really is a good thing to focus on. Singular experiences, not group experiences. Others have said, Pat Cholka says the Initiatic Experience, in his opinion, begins at the point of when the candidate submits his petition and continues long past the degree itself. I'd even argue that it starts even before he signs his petition, because when you go and you know nothing about Masonry, you are initiated into the culture there. If you just show up and they're joking around, and
Sure.
it's.
Our candidates have to show up for our dinners up to a year in advance. So they have to come to our dinners for over a year before they can even petition. So it's absolutely true for us.
That's a lot of green beans. It really is.
It's a lot of Joby meatballs and
Oreos.
Balls.
Yeah. Let's see. We have a lot of support too, especially from Donnie Dillon on the CORs. I think it's great that we have the reference to. Oh, do we have that? Is that a new tie you're showing off there, Robert?
I'm showing off my new tie because Edgar Alejandro was writing us, and this is what it is.
Oh, look at that. I'm wearing one by him, too.
Oh, look at you guys.
Brother Edgar, he has. Well, we'll share the link.
Masonic Revival. He's got some amazing stuff.
So, yes, more swag on the blocks, and apparently TMR approved.
This episode of the Masonic Roundtable brought to you in part by Edgar Alejandro. The bill's in the mail, buddy.
Not a paid endorsement. All right.
So let's go back to the Initiatic Experience of TMR, which we've just broken by that shameless plug.
Yeah. Stops and starts.
You're welcome.
Interruptions, right? But Donnie does end on a high note here when he talks about that human beings are above all symbolic thinkers, pulling the thread of the Carl Jung reference you made earlier. And he goes into much more detail than I'll summarize here of we have certain traditions in our culture, things like weddings, like birthdays, like baby showers, like anniversary parties, that are rites of passage in themselves. But there are becoming fewer and fewer of those. There are things that you can think of as that our culture did that younger cultures won't pass on. That those are things that are lost to time, and so having something like Freemasonry stick around to be an alternative to the lack of symbolic passage is really an enduring endeavor.
Absolutely. I'd add, just think about our culture and society right now lacking that. What it really teaches a young man is that the definition of a good man or a successful man is one who has a large TV, he has a brand new truck, he has a house in a successful neighborhood or a ritzy neighborhood, and he thinks that's what makes a good man. But through Freemasonry, we can reach more of these men and teach them that that is not actually what makes a good man. That materialism is actually sort of our enemy, and we explore psychology and we start to find out what makes us good men are things like loyalty and trustworthy, and honesty, compassion, empathy. Those type of things make a man a good man, not the size of his television or how new his truck is.
Unless you're in Texas.
Maybe if you're in Texas.
No, that's awesome. It is getting late in the hour, so we're going to start wrapping up for final thoughts and shameless plugs, and we will start with Robert Johnson.
Oh, sure. Go to the guy who gave shameless plugs to ties.
We all helped.
Yeah, I guess we did. Just to say thanks to Rob Hurd for coming on. I was actually lucky enough a couple years back. He came out to Westchester at Pleiades Lodge out here in Illinois, and you did a nice lodge leadership presentation. And I've sat at the dinner table with prolific Masonic writers in the past, and I didn't know what to expect from Brother Hurd, but I sat across the table from him, and we had green beans, right? And I don't know if you remember the conversation. You talked to millions of people, but it was a great experience. He was so personable, and he was knowledgeable and on the level, and it was just a great experience. And so if you guys get a chance to go out and you see one of his leadership presentations, do it. If you got to drive 100 miles, go. It's really worth it. And in closing, the importance of that initiatic experience is just so important. Go to Lodge, make sure you're doing your practices. Mike Shirley wrote a great piece on the Midnight Freemasons last week, the Ritual Challenge, which was basically trying to memorize a little bit more ritual within 30 days. And if you can do that, then you can make that positive impact on that initiatic experience in your own little way. So if you can do that, awesome. Other than that, thanks everybody for watching the show. If you like Masonic podcasts, 9:30 Sunday nights is Whence Came You, except for last Sunday. For whatever reason, I scheduled it at 9 o'clock, probably something of lack of sleep. So thanks again, and back to you, Jason.
All right, let's go over to Juan Sepulveda.
All right, again, Brother Robert, thank you for joining us around the Masonic Roundtable. I think it's been an inspiring discussion. I hope that the brothers that listen, especially those that are within the leadership of the lodges, take some of these things that we discussed today to heart and try to do everything possible to make sure that these new candidates that are coming through our lodges are having a memorable, life-changing initiatic experience. One thing is a fact is that regardless of whether our culture supports rites of passages or not through the different customs, there is a deep desire in every man to belong to something, and that if we don't put at their disposal outlets to which they can belong that support great morals and values and things like we do in Freemasonry, they're going to find other outlets. That's why you have so many young men that don't find that belonging out in positive outlets, and they end up joining gangs and joining groups of less repute. So I think as leaders in our community, it's our responsibility to put at their disposal opportunities for them to exercise those values that we want to see in good men. And this is one of the reasons why I started the Gentleman's Brotherhood. The Gentleman's Brotherhood, although not a Masonic endeavor, is one that the vision is to help have one place where men who share a deep respect for moral values and common courtesy can go and find resources. So I invite all the brothers that are listening to go to thegentleman'sbrotherhood.com, and I will be releasing an exclusive video tonight. So if you're listening live around midnight you'll get access to that, and it's really exciting. So I hope that you check it out. TheWindingStairs.com.
Awesome. Moving over to John Ruark.
Hey guys, thanks for picking up the slack, Jason, while I was out, and I didn't know if I'd make the show tonight, but I'm glad I was able to work things in. And right after this, I'm going right back to work. So thanks for your patience, but it's been a refreshing break, especially for the chance to talk to Brother Robert Hurd. So thank you very much for joining us again. I think the last thing I'd say is building off of our balance episode with the point I was trying to make earlier about the focused intent. Do things well and do things in the moment, and I think that also applies to the ritual. I'm not a ritualist in the sense that I love to get every single word right, but what I find beautiful about the ritual is that we keep it so inviolable that the message can be carried across even for those who don't know what it truly means. And so those who have ears will hear it, and those who won't will hopefully just keep it going because of their Grand Lodge. But I think that part is the baseline, the foundation of the Initiatic Experience. If you can't get that right, we talked about stuttering and all that earlier, then it doesn't matter what else. A stutterer in tuxedos is still a stutterer. And I'm not trying to talk about people's disabilities. I'm talking about preservation of the experience. And also that implies that if you're young and you see things going on like joking and whispering and talking on the sidelines, you have the responsibility to correct your seniors. You have the responsibility to correct past masters that they're doing things that are really taking away from the experience. So don't be shy, and that's one thing that we should be taught to respect our elders. But everybody's human, and so we could all stand to be corrected sometimes. With that's all I got. Back to you, Jason.
So I wanted to say, behind every good ritualist is a crotchety old, Grand Lodge provost or ritualist yelling stuff from the sidelines. So, which can, in and of itself, break the Initiatic Experience as well. Brother Rob, close us out for shameless plugs and final remarks.
Okay. Well, first off, guys, it's been a real pleasure and an honor for me. I have a huge amount of respect for all of you. You treat me better than I deserve. So thanks for having me, and thanks for taking it easy on this introvert. You guys stick your necks out a lot, and I really appreciate that, being a fellow that's kind of in the service business here too. We all just try and really serve our craft, and I know there's guys out there that constantly say, oh, you're in this to fluff up your ego, you're trying to make money off of Masons, and all this kind of stuff, and those guys just don't know what really goes on. And so I really appreciate you guys for doing a similar thing of really sticking your neck out and doing the work, serving our craft, providing education, a medium for men to have discussions so they can share their thoughts that they might not be able to even share in their own lodge experience. So first off and foremost, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Shameless plug, of course. If you guys are interested in the Initiatic Experience, my book is on Amazon. You can get a signed copy if you contact me. I have my own website also. It's www.initiatic.guru, and you can get a signed copy. Or it's just on Amazon I think it's on sale actually right now. The magazine also, Living Stones, monthly, hard copy available, electronic also. We just lowered the prices even on like the electronic versions. Again, another thing that we try to create to just allow our brothers anywhere a voice. So if brothers out there have an article or something they'd like to share, a paper or whatnot, the magazine is there as a voice, as a service. So send us your articles, send us your photos, Living Stones magazine. And that's about it. So thanks again, fellas.
Awesome. Robert, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. We will put your website in the show notes, so anyone who wants to go take a look at your book and read your story can go to the website and find that. We're just so humbled and blessed to be able to engage in so many awesome discussions with you and the other guests that we've had on the show. It's really fantastic, and this show is as fun for us as it is for everybody listening, and part of that is directly due to those brethren like you, Rob, who are just willing to take some time, hang out with us for an hour or two one night, and just geek out on Masonry. As far as the Initiatic Experience is concerned, in Virginia, before every single Master Mason degree, the Worshipful Master gets up and reminds the entire lodge of what a solemn experience this is supposed to be. And I want to close with something Worshipful Masters usually say, at least in my lodge, and they say, look, above everything else, what the candidate is about to go through could be the richest experience of his life.
Fantastic.
And I think if we go into the degrees and if we go into Masonry with that in mind, that there's a chance, just a chance that this initiatic experience might be the richest experience of this person's life. And we keep that in perspective, I think Masonry will continue to thrive, and we will see a lot of great things happening with this fraternity. Because your degrees are something you never forget. And you should never forget them if they're done well and you're treated with the dignity that you should be as a candidate. So everybody, thanks so much for watching our show. Like us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, interact with us. We just got an email today from a brother who had some ideas for shows. Keep those coming because we get our best topics from you. Our brains only fit so much, the exception of that being Nick Johnson. He has like a portable hard drive that he downloads all of his extra memory into.
Johnny Mnemonic of Masonry.
Yes. So, rate us on YouTube, rate us on iTunes, and you know what, we are about 30 likes shy of 6,000, I believe. 30 likes shy of 6,000. So just share us with a brother who hasn't heard about us. Just one brother. And that would be amazing. So if there's someone you think would really enjoy the show, please share the word, because we're not here to make money off of this show. We don't make money off of this show. We just, our whole goal is to be able to pay the show bills each month. So you can buy pins to help us reach that goal, but we do this because it's a labor of love, and we as the hosts, it's an initiatic experience each week for the hosts, because the bond between the hosts up here is something that keeps us going and keeps us really enthusiastic about this show. So with that, we will be back next week. Have a wonderful week, and above all, keep searching for more light.